Brittany Nelson. I work at South Mississippi Regional Center. I am the Community Services Division Director, and what I do is assist with the Diagnostics and Evaluations Department, along with the Case Management Department through the Community Support Program. The programs that I'm going to discuss today are Diagnostics and Evaluations, the support coordination, or I'm sorry, not support coordination, but the waiver program that is through support coordination, and then the community support program that is through targeted case management as well. So I'm going to start with diagnostics, just because you have to start there to move to the other programs that we have. And I'm going to share my screen with you. I think it might be better if I do the full screen. Okay, Bridget, were you able to see that whenever I pulled it up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when you contact our Diagnostics and Evaluations Department, we start with the referral process. And this form that I'm showing you now is the form of all the questions that we will be asking for. We can't just off the bat say that you're not going to qualify, but right here where it has diagnosis, we're going to ask questions about the IEP diagnosis, if they're in a self-contained classroom, are there any medical diagnosis? Just because we have to see the full picture of everything, mental health, behavior, medications, and we'll tell you, okay, yes, let's move forward with the evaluation, or if in our opinion we think that you might need to hold off. One of the reasons we may ask you to hold off is if your loved one is 14 years old and the only diagnosis they have is autism, because autism will not qualify through our waiver program. It will qualify for the community support program, but there is no waiting list for that community support program. It is you complete your evaluation and you jump right into it. So that would be a reason that you wouldn't go ahead and get an evaluation. If they have a diagnosis of ID or they've been in the self-contained classrooms, we would still go through all of the IEP records, medical records, and just ensure we're on the right track and you're coming for the right waiver program, just because there are so many out there. And we ask so much as the means of communication. So if they use gestures or facial expressions, but most importantly, it's going to be records. Where can we pull anything with diagnosis? So family doctors, mental health doctors, we just want to have a full picture of everything. Once we finish the referral, and if the referral is done over the phone, we will mail you a consent form. The consent form is for us to pull all of those medical records. We want to see everything. I'm sorry. You will also get sent in the mail an application. The application is going to be very in-depth. Do not get frustrated whenever you see the application. It is very extensive. It asks questions as if, when was the first time Jane Doe held her head up? If you do not have the answers to that, it is not something that you need to search for information or just rack your brain trying to figure it out. Type in NA because you don't know that information and just skip it. That's one of the reasons I feel that people just stress out and I'm trying to find the right words and just not turn back in the application because it is so much and they just get overwhelmed. And I do not want people to feel that way, because even if you just called SMRC and you talk to the diagnostics department, they're going to walk you through it. They'll help. So once you complete the application and consent forms and you mail it back to us, we will schedule the evaluation. Okay. Once that evaluation is completed, then we have 2 weeks for the psychometrist to complete the write-up on the evaluations. There are times that it may take longer than that, just depending on the amount of evaluations that we have at that time. I know right now we are down an evaluator, so it does tend to take a little more longer right now. So the services that you were trying to get while through the Medicaid waiver program, I'm going to go here. This is the brochure through the Department of Mental Health. And these are those services. There's the day program services, employment services, residential services, in-home services, behavior and crisis services, and other support services such as transition assistance and therapies. I'm not sure many people who do the therapies, but that's not for me to say that it's not being done. And then support coordination. Support coordination is where you will have a case manager that you will be in contact with monthly, and then they will have to see the person quarterly. That's just part of the program. It's something that you are required to agree with whenever you come through the services, that you are receiving the services and you are actually utilizing the services through the program. So if you're not utilizing the services, then they're going to say, okay, well, we need to take you off and put you on a future planning list for when you do need them. And I am going to go more in depth on what those waiver services are through the description. Okay. So the day program, this is where they could go somewhere throughout the day. They do different activities. They go into the community. And it's not just activities where they are sitting at a table, just coloring or talking on their phones. They do various activities that they enjoy. If they like to participate in karaoke, I have never been to a day program that does not do karaoke. There's also programs who like to focus on math skills. Everything is person-centered. So whatever that person enjoys doing, that's what they do. They go out into the community, like to Walmart, out to eat. Out to eat is the biggest one that people enjoy doing. Let's see, the employment services. So supported employment. That's where they have a job coach with them. The job coach provides transportation to and from the program, and they are with them while they're at their job. They help them stay on task, complete any task that may need to be done at the job. So if they need to help cleaning the table at McDonald's, then the job coach will try to get them to do it independently, but if they need some type of assistance, then they will be there for the assistance. And then they do provide them transportation back home afterwards. The job discovery is before the supported employment takes place, and that's just finding out what job is the right fit. So if the person enjoys stocking shelves, then maybe they can go to a store and stock shelves. It just gives the job coach the opportunity to figure out what they enjoy to do. So the residential services that are available through the waiver program is supervised living. This is a program that I feel like doesn't get as much credit as it should, just because a lot of people feel like the supervised living is like living in an institution, and that is not the case at all. Supervised living, they live in a home with 3 other people. They have their own bedrooms. They do share the kitchen, the living area, but typically, and maybe a bathroom. It just depends on how the home is set up. They are able to work on cooking for themselves. They can do the household chores like their laundry, dishes, things like that. It is about them having independence while also being supervised 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. These people will go to the day program if they choose to, and they have the transportation to and from that day program as well. The supervised living is about giving the greatest degree of independence possible. And I think that that is just an amazing program. And we had someone who the family stated that they would never be able to live on their own, never be able to do anything for themselves, for instance, like the chores. But whenever the person got into the home, they were even feeding themselves after the parents said that they don't even feed themselves. They started feeding themselves, started helping with the dishes. And so because that independence was highly encouraged and they were off on their own, they didn't have mom and dad saying that they would just do it for them. Now, the staff is there to where if they cannot do it, then the staff will do it. So I don't want that to deter you from that or defer you from that, because the staff will do it if the person is just not able to do it. They are just going to be encouraged to. The shared supported living, this is something I'm not sure if anyone here has heard of Cheshire. That's just the one place that pops up on the in the top of my head. They have shared supported living, and it's similar to supervised living. It's just they don't have the staff inside the home with them 24/7. They are able to be a few steps away from them. I think it's up to 5 minutes away that they have to be there. The supported living, this is where they can live on their own. They can be in a home or an apartment. It cannot reside with a family, but they're living that independent life, but they have a staff that can come in up to 8 hours a day and assist. So a lot of our people, they'll go to the day program for 6 hours, and then they'll have a worker for 6 to 8 hours when they get home. So essentially all they're doing on their own is sleeping. That's always a good one whenever they are able to live the more independence. And that worker is able to help them with preparing their meals, transportation to doctor's appointments, shopping, and helping them with their budget. The behavior support program. This one is utilized a good bit through the waiver program. And what that is it provides a little more attention if the person has extensive behaviors. The behavior support provides an evaluation. They try to figure out what those triggers are for those behaviors so that they can't fix the behaviors, but hopefully they can teach the person how to react whenever they have those feelings, instead of screaming and flipping tables, maybe go to their room and de-escalate there. Behavior support, there's a lot that can be done with it. Now, I do want to make it clear that we at SMRC do not provide these services. So I am going to email, or I have emailed these services to Bridget. That way she can send it out to everyone, because it gives a more in-depth definition of what the services are. And then you can talk to the providers and they can give you from their perspective what it is. Since I'm not a provider, I try not to go too much in depth on it, just because I don't want to mislead you in any way. But I do have these definitions that I want you to be aware of. So the home and community supports, this is another big program through Waiver. It is similar to the supported living, except this one can be in your home. They can help with any of the person's household chores. So they can't do your laundry, but they can do the person's laundry that they're there to serve and assist with. And then they'll take them out into the community to do grocery shopping. They can help them with cooking, going to doctor's appointments, and things like that. The in-home respite is strictly in the home. They cannot be taken into the community. This can be done in your home instead of on their own. And the in-home nursing respite, they have to have a medical reason for it. So like a feeding tube would be a reason to have medical in-home nursing respite. So with that waiver program, we went through a lot of the services. The eligibility requirements is that the person has to have an intellectual developmental disability. And so that is typically an IQ 70 or below. I highly recommend people to get evaluated as soon as possible when it comes to this program, because there is an extensive waiting list. It is typically 8 to 10 years long. I know that the Department of Mental Health is doing their best to shorten that length of time, but just so you're aware, there is an extensive waiting list for that program. Now, the community support program. I'm not going to go back through all of those services, because all of the services that are on the community support program are ones that are covered under waiver, with the exception of some. So you still have access to the day services program, the pre-vocational services, supported employment, supported living, and in-home respite. I know that this brochure says in-home respite is for 4 hours a day, and then supported living is now 8 hours per day. So you still have access to those. There is no waiting list at all for this program. You just have to be at least 18 years, have the full Medicaid benefits, completed your formal education. Okay, so I have gone through the different services and what's required for the evaluations. At this point, I will answer any questions that people have, or something that I may have left off that, like, Bridget knows that I should have discussed.
At what age would you recommend an evaluation?
I would say the sooner the better. If they have an IEP that has an ID diagnosis at 7 years old, I would say do it. We have some people who have come in at 4 years old, and they are able to meet the qualifications. I know that the schools and us typically can't, with the ID diagnosis only, it is typically global developmental delay, which does not qualify for the waiver, but we're able to say, okay, we're pretty sure that they're going to meet the qualifications. If there's anybody that we may have a question on, we report to a licensed psychologist. And there's also a medical director with the Department of Mental Health. And those tough ones with the really young ones, we will have everyone involved on it, just because there is an extensive waiting list and we don't want you to miss out on that.
Can you touch on reevaluations at 16?
Yes. So if your person is evaluated at 8 years old, then, or let's say 5, if they are evaluated at 5 years old and we say, yeah, they may meet the qualifications for a waiver program in the future, and they come back in, because they will have to be reevaluated at 16 years old, and they come back in and they do not meet the qualifications, even though you were on that waiting list for those 8 to 10 years, we will say, now you do not qualify. And that's why some people would prefer to wait until they get that IEP. If we do have some people who, if the person is 15 years old and they're getting ready in a couple months to turn 16, once they know that they're going to be reevaluated, they may make that decision to, well, let's just wait until they're 16. That way we don't have to come back and get reevaluated, because you will start from the very beginning with getting the referral, the social history updates, and brand new evaluations with getting all the medical records again.
So getting evaluated at 5 is essentially just to secure your spot on the wait list.
Okay, so I don't think that we have any other questions. If so, Bridget, feel free to hand out my email address if anybody has any questions that they think of later on or they want to make contact. You can also give my direct line number, which is, I'm going to put it in the Q&A, as well as our intake coordinator.
We have 2 questions in the Q&A.
Oh,
we just got
okay. Let's see. Oh, I had the webinar chat on. Okay, new to the state with a 13-year-old and 15-year-old. Are you saying we should wait until 16? I would not with the 13-year-old. I mean, because that's 3 years away. The 15-year-old, ultimately, it's up to your discretion. Me personally, I would say hold off, just because you're so close to being 16 and you wouldn't have to come back and be reevaluated. If that's not something that is an issue for you, then you could go on and you'd be a few months or a year behind on it. But it's strictly up to you and your discretion on what you're wanting to do. If we wait until our child is 16 and the evaluation is approved, there's an 8 to 10 year wait after that, correct? Yes, that's why if they have that ID diagnosis at 7, 8 years old, I would go ahead and do it. I mean, like I just said, even with the 13-year-old, I would go ahead and do it. It's just whenever you're at that 15-year-old mark, it's kind of like, well, if you just wait a few more months, they're going to be 16 and you wouldn't have to come back. But ultimately, it's still your decision. You can do that. You can still come in and do it to where you can go ahead and get on that waiting list. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, then I think that we can end it. And then, but feel free to reach out. Bridget, will my phone number that I put in the webinar chat, will they have access to?
I can send out a summary email and include it with the attachments that you send.
Okay. And I'm sorry for all my ums and having to think. It threw me off doing it virtual. I've never done that before, even though I did like it. It was different. So
hoping to make it more accessible to parents as they reach that stage of life if they can't attend live.
Oh, no, I agree. And it being recorded helps as well. So,
okay. All right. Well, we really appreciate you doing this for us.
Of course. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Okay, will do.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.